Back of me is a MiG-17. This is an airplane designed as a follow-on to the MiG-15. MiG-15 was the first of the jets that the Russians designed and built and were principally used in the Korean War. The MiG-17 was a follow-on, be an improvement over the MiG-15, and the principal improvement they made was in design of the wing. They changed the angle of the wings a little bit to allow the airplane to go faster. Faster being about 0.92 Mach, right around 600 knots. The airplane was designed as an air interceptor, just like the F-4 Phantom was. Except in this case, the air interceptor was designed to intercept B-29s, which were being used in the early part of the war in Korea. And to that end, instead of having missiles, it had a 20-millimeter cannon and a 37-millimeter cannon. They made around 10,000 of these airplanes. They were all over the world. They're still in service in some African countries. A very reliable airplane, very rugged airplane. One of the drawbacks with it is that you can't see out of the back of it very well, and you'll notice on top of the canopy is a rear view mirror. In air combat, notice nowadays F-16s and things like that have a canopy that the pilot can see what's in back of him. Most of the Russian airplanes, MiG-21, MiG-19, all have cockpits you can't see out of. After the Korean War, the MiG-17 is developed in use, but the MiG-17, which we have here, besides having a 35-millimeter cannon, it might have an afterburner. The later versions of them, they included an afterburner. This airplane was actually in Egypt originally. It's been painted in the colors of the North Vietnam. Now, this airplane, the MiG-17, was the principal aircraft in use by the North Vietnamese. Most of the aircraft that the United States Air Force and Navy shot down were MiG-17s. Most of the airplanes that were shot down of the Americans were shot down by MiG-17s. A couple of reasons. It's a lighter airplane, and being a lighter airplane, it has less wing loading. It allows the airplane to turn better. It's a lighter airplane, it turns better. Early on in the war, as they were looking at Vietnam, they were looking at the fact that we weren't shooting down many of their airplanes. In fact, the ratio between our success versus the Vietnamese and the Vietnamese was about 1-to-1. In other words, we would shoot down one of theirs, they'd shoot down one of ours. And we realized that there was a problem. What was the problem? Why aren't we superior? Because we have what we believe is a superior airplane. You have a Mach 2 airplane, the F-4, and you have a subsonic airplane. Although this airplane turned better, one of the things they had an advantage of, they didn't have to go very far. They didn't have to take gas to the enemy. So they could fly lighter, get back quicker. So the Navy created what was called the ALT report. Find out what was the problem, why are we having so much trouble with these airplanes? And thus started Naval Fighter Weapons School. That's the official name, Naval Fighter Weapons School. That's all we call it, Top Gun. And so some of the accomplished fighter pilots came back to the United States and went to Miramar Naval Air Station and just practiced tactics. Basically with borrowed F-4s and A-4s, and they learned to fight, and learned how to fight them. And what they principally learned was you cannot turn with a MiG. They just turn too darn sharp, and you're going to end up going around, and they'll end up in back of you. So they found out to use the vertical. And as he's turning, you want to go up. This is way oversimplification. But when you're going up or straight down, you can change direction any way you want to. And the teamwork used between the naval pilots allowed them to substantially improve their tactics, and the kill ratio went up to, I think, 11-to-1. And in fact, Cunningham, who flew the F-4, was a Top Gun graduate. And the Top Gun people, what they were doing was they created a cadre of experienced fighter pilots who could go to the squadrons and teach the guys how to fly. One more thing I would add is that we managed to get our hands on several MiG-17s during the Vietnam War. They brought them back to the United States, took them to a secret location up in the desert. They learned how to fly them and fight with them. Over 600 American pilots flew the Russian airplanes. to find out what they could do with them and how to fight them.